Everyone has an opinion about this jar, but almost nobody knows a single real fact about what's inside it. You probably have one in your kitchen cabinet right now, and you probably think of it as the bad kind of coffee, the stuff you use when you don't want the real thing. So here are 9 things about instant coffee that sound like they can't be true. What it actually is, the forgotten guy who really invented it, the 2 wars that made it famous, the machines that turn liquid coffee into powder, the bean behind that bitter taste, and one final number that'll make you feel bad about every joke you've made about it. That last one is why this whole thing exists. But before any of that makes sense, we need to clear up the biggest thing people get wrong about instant coffee is what it even is. Fact 1. The powder on your spoon was, before it was powder, a cup of coffee someone brewed in a factory. Real roasted coffee gets brewed into liquid. Then the water is removed until it becomes powder or small grains. When you add hot water, you're putting a real brewed coffee back together. The powder is just coffee with the water taken out. People think it's fake because they confuse it with a different product. Chicory. Chicory is a root from a plant. It gets roasted so it looks like coffee. That is the actual fake coffee. People have used it for hundreds of years when they couldn't get real coffee. In Napoleon's France, people secretly mixed chicory into real coffee to make it last longer. During the American Civil War, the Union Navy, the northern side's fleet, blocked the port of New Orleans. Coffee became very hard to get, and people started roasting chicory root instead. And in Prussia, a German state in 1766, a king named Frederick the Great stopped all coffee from being brought into the country. One business got the right to make a chicory product to use instead of coffee. Within a few decades, there were more than 20 chicory factories in one small area. Britain even sells a product called Camp Coffee, a coffee and chicory mix that has been on sale since 1885, which shows how normal the replacement became. So instant coffee is real coffee, just dried. The fake stuff is chicory, and that's where the confusion comes from. Fact 2. So that part is settled, but it brings up the clear question, who was the first person to actually figure out how to dry coffee? For over 100 years, the history book said one guy did it. A Japanese scientist named Satoru Kato worked in Chicago. In 1901, he sent in an official document saying he invented it. He showed it at a big world fair in Buffalo, and he got the official US document in 1903. So, for years, Kato was the only name in the history books. But then someone found a newspaper article from New Zealand. A guy named David Strang, from the small town of Invercargill, had sent in an official document for instant coffee back in 1889. He got his official document in 1890 using a method with dry hot air. He even sold it as Strang's coffee. That is 12 years before Cato. So the history books were wrong for over 100 years. And there is a third name. George Constant Louis Washington was an American living in Guatemala. He made his own method around 1906 and started selling it as Red E-Coffee in 1909. He started a company in Brooklyn, New York in 1910. 3 different people on 3 continents, 30 years apart, all solved the same problem. A guy in New Zealand figured it out first. A guy in Chicago became the one people remembered. And a guy in Guatemala built the company that became very successful. Fact 3. Remember the third guy from that list, George Washington? Turns out he's the one who matters most. Just a few years after he started selling his instant coffee, World War I began. It turned a small Brooklyn instant coffee company into a key army supplier. Soldiers in the trenches, the long ditches where they fought, didn't have time to brew coffee. They just needed a quick wake-up with nothing but hot water. George Washington's instant coffee solved that perfectly. Canadian soldiers were already using it in 1914. When the American Army entered the war in 1917, everything the company made went to the American military. In the final months, soldiers wanted 6 times as much as the whole country could make. American emergency food packs included a tiny 7-gram packet of double-strength instant coffee, about 1 spoon. There was 1 packet per soldier, in boxes built to feed 24 men. Soldiers called it a cup of George. One soldier wrote home from the trenches in 1918. It takes only a minute to light my little oil heater and make some George Washington coffee. That's instant coffee's first real moment. A torn packet, a tiny oil heater, 30 seconds. It didn't happen in a coffee shop or a kitchen. It happened in a trench. Fact 4. So, World War I proved the idea. Give it to soldiers, and when they come home, they want it. 20 years later, another world war broke out. This time, 2 of the biggest brands on Earth were fighting for the same job. World War II is when instant coffee stopped being one company's product and became a whole industry. First came Nescafé. It went on sale in Switzerland on April 1, 1938, and later opened a factory in America. A Swiss scientist named Max Morgenthaler invented it. He started working on it in 1932. A Brazilian bank asked Nestlé, the Swiss food company, for help with a coffee problem. Farmers had grown too much coffee after the world economy crashed in 1929. Prices fell, and they needed a way to use it all up. Once the US entered the war, every jar from the American Nescafe factory went to the military. Regular people back home could not buy it off a shelf. Picture a grocery shelf in the middle of the war with an empty space where the coffee used to sit. Every jar is in a soldier's pack. Then, separately, in 1942, a company called General Foods signed a deal to supply instant coffee to the US military. That Army product became Maxwell House Instant Coffee. It reached regular people only as a test in the eastern US in the fall of 1945. It went nationwide the following year. Two of the biggest coffee jars on the shelf today both spent World War II doing the exact same thing. Every jar went to soldiers, and regular people could not buy it until the war ended. The coffee you buy at the supermarket today got its start feeding armies. Fact 5. So 2 world wars turned instant coffee from an odd idea into a whole industry. But behind all that army demand was a big problem. How do you turn liquid coffee into a powder that can sit on a shelf for years? There are 2 very different machines. The way the powder feels tells you which machine made it. Fine dust versus little lumps. The cheaper, faster way is spray drying. Brewed coffee gets thrown through high-speed spinning wheels into hot air. The tiny drops dry almost instantly into fine, round bits. Each one is only a tiny part of an inch across. One machine can handle thousands of pounds of liquid coffee every hour. That gives you the fine, dust-like instant coffee in the big plastic jar. But that hot air can burn the coffee's flavor. The other way is freeze drying. Brewed coffee gets frozen solid, then put under a vacuum. A space with almost no air. The ice turns straight from solid to gas without becoming liquid again. As it does, it grows to about 10 times its original size, cracking the frozen coffee into rough, broken pieces. That's why freeze-dried coffee looks like little rocks. It's the more expensive, better-tasting kind, sold in smaller, nicer-looking jars, while cheap instant comes as fine dust that can smell burnt. And here's the wild part. Freeze-drying was first invented to treat wounded soldiers. It kept blood plasma, the liquid part of blood, from going bad. It also kept penicillin, an early antibiotic, a medicine that kills bacteria, from going bad. All of that happened before it ever touched coffee. In one part of the factory, coffee gets thrown through hot air. In another, it gets frozen solid and has its ice pulled straight out as a gas. Fact 6. So now you know how instant coffee gets made, but none of that explains why some instant coffee tastes stronger and more bitter than what you'd brew at home. The main reason is the bean. Instant coffee almost always uses Robusta beans, the cheaper, stronger bean that many coffee fans don't like as much. Picture a farmer choosing between 2 crops. One tastes better in a cup, the other survives more storms, fights off more bugs, and gives the farmer more steady money. Robusta is chosen for practical reasons. It is cheaper to grow, easier to grow, gives a bigger crop, and needs far fewer chemicals sprayed on it. The cost is taste. Robusta has less of the sharp, bright taste that coffee lovers enjoy. It has a more bitter taste, with a flavor like wood and earth. And most of the world's Robusta goes into instant coffee. Robusta makes up roughly 45% of all the coffee grown on Earth. So the reason instant coffee has a bad name for being strong and bitter is mostly the bean. Almost all of it uses the tough, cheap bean, not the expensive one. Fact 7. So that's the bean behind the bitter taste. But here's the part that sounds like a mistake. Robusta actually has a lot more caffeine, the part in coffee that wakes you up, than the expensive bean, nearly double. So you'd think a cup of instant would give you much more caffeine, right? But how much caffeine ends up in your cup depends on how much actual coffee is in your mug. The bean itself. Robusta contains roughly 2.7% caffeine by weight. That's almost double the 1.5% in Arabica, the bean people usually pay more for. If you compare the same weight of each bean, Robusta really is the one with more caffeine. But in the cup, a typical instant coffee has about 66 milligrams of caffeine. That's a very small measure of weight. Regular brewed coffee, usually made from Arabica, has about 112 milligrams of caffeine for the same size. The bean with more caffeine makes a weaker cup because you're putting less coffee into the mug. Picture 2 identical mugs side by side. One comes from a jar of the stronger bean, Robusta, made as instant. The other comes from a coffee maker using the weaker bean, Arabica. The coffee maker cup will actually keep you up later because there's just more coffee in it. Fact 8. So the bean with more caffeine gives you a weaker cup. And if you're still thinking instant coffee is just for people who can't get anything better, the next fact might change your mind. In British homes, instant coffee is the first choice. More than 75% of the coffee bought to drink in British homes is instant. Compare that to the US and France, where it's well under 10%. And Italy, the country most famous for espresso, sits at 1%. Picture a British kitchen cabinet. The water boils, the jar comes out, you add 1 spoon of powder and some hot water. And that's it. That is just having a coffee in millions of homes. This is a country that drinks a lot of coffee and tea, and most of that coffee is instant. Fact 9. So the UK has already made its choice. But here's the number that makes every joke about instant coffee feel a little silly. Close to 50% of the world's coffee beans, before they are even roasted, are used to make instant coffee. Think about that for a second. Of every 2 coffee beans grown anywhere on Earth, almost one of them is on its way to a jar. This one product uses almost half of all the coffee grown on the planet. And on top of that, the good version, freeze-dried, is carefully made to keep more of what made it real coffee in the first place. Picture a freeze-dried bean. The cold pulls out only the water, so the coffee's own flavor and caffeine stay in the bean, instead of being burned away in hot air. That's why the nicer jar smells like coffee, not burnt dust. So the jar everyone calls not real coffee is actually real coffee, brewed, dried, and put back together in your mug. The story about who invented it was wrong for over 100 years. 2 world wars turned it into a whole industry. Real machines made it possible, and nearly half the world's coffee crop now goes into jars like yours. The bad name was never really fair. You were never drinking a fake. You were drinking one of coffee's most successful survival stories. So the next time you pull that jar out of the kitchen cabinet, maybe without even really thinking about it, spoon the powder into a mug, pour in the hot water, and just remember, that spoon of powder used to be a cup of real coffee somebody brewed. It got shipped off to a war, grew into a whole industry, and ended up sending nearly half the planet's coffee crop into jars just like yours. That's the coffee that survived.